Hi, everybody. I'm David Asman. Thanks for joining us. Kicking off tonight, now the real shocker of the Charlie Rangel and Maxine Waters scandals is that they did nothing wrong. Or at least that's what they say.
Even though they're serious charges, I'm prepared to prove that the only thing I've ever had in my 50 years of public service is service.
And Maxine Waters had this statement, quote, no benefit, no improper action, no failure to disclose, no one influenced, no case. Now, it's bizarre that both of these folks claim that they're innocent without really denying what they did. They apparently don't see anything wrong with not paying all of your taxes or lobbying for taxpayer bailouts of a company that you partly own and that your husband is a board member of. There was a time when every member of Congress knew these were charges worthy of expulsion or even jail time. Now, both Charlie Rangel and Maxine Waters had no trouble condemning similar or even lesser faults in others. Here's Ms. Waters talking about former House Speaker Newt Gingrich back in 1995.
Believe me, the American public does not appreciate double standards. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. No one should be so big, so important, so powerful they can violate the rules of this House and the laws of this country without suffering the consequences.
So what has happened? What has happened in the past 15 years to change her mind? Could be that folks like Waters and Rangel have just been in office for too long, but something else is going on as well. Government has grown so big and has entered so many different areas of business that the division between the private sector and the public sector has been blurred. And that blurs the definitions of corruption. Spending other people's money is a sacred trust. When that trust is violated in the private sector, we don't hesitate to prosecute the offenders. But Congress and the president claim that they are pursuing what they call the public interest. So even when they're directing other people's money to their friends or family, something we used to call a bribe, they justify it as being in the public interest. So when Chris Dodd, for example, pays off his mortgage buddies in a $300 billion housing bill, he sees no conflict between his interest and the public interest. And neither did the Senate ethics panel that whitewashed his countrywide scandal. But Scoreboard whitewashes nothing. We still see corruption inside the Beltway for what it is, and we think most voters do as well. That's why Nancy Pelosi's comment last week that Democrats, quote, cleaned the swamp of Congress when they took over in 2007 rings so hollow. Either they think we're all idiots or they are completely delusional about what corruption is. Whatever the reason for thinking that the swamp still doesn't stink, this bunch will never admit that it does. And that's probably the worst indictment of them all. Somebody who's been following this from the beginning is Tom Fitton. He's president of Judicial Watch, a conservative watchdog group, joining us now from Washington. Now, Tom, I think that is an indictment, that they look at stuff that used to be called corruption, that they themselves used to call corruption. They look at the same kind of stuff, and they see it as fine, business as usual.
That's right. What passes for everyday business here in Washington, the rest of us wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And, Maxine Waters or Charlie Rangel abusing their office for personal gain, I guess they think they're innocent because they know everyone else in town does it.
Now, does Barney Frank get a pass on this? Because he claims that, it was completely innocent, his attempt to get a TARP bailout for One United Bank, the bank that Maxine had stock in and that her husband was on the board of.
Well, Barney Frank knew that Maxine Waters had a conflict of interest. Nevertheless, he exerted improper influence on her behalf to get the $12 million put out there for One United. And if he didn't think anything was wrong, why did he tell the Wall Street Journal when they first asked him about it? Well, I don't remember what regulator I talked to. And we found documents. It turned out the regulator was none other than former Treasury Secretary, then Treasury Secretary, Hank Paulson. So how Frank pretending to forgetting to talk to Paulson is supposed to be believable?
Well, Tom, there's something even worse than that, because frankly, I'd heard about that before, but he now says that he's innocent because he never helped One United at the behest of Maxine Waters. He did it at the behest of a woman named Diane Wilkerson. Now, Diane Wilkerson is a state senator in the state of Massachusetts. In 2001, she was fined as a sitting senator by the Ethics Commission because she didn't report consulting fees that she got from One United's predecessor called the Boston Bank of Commerce. Then, in 2008, she was caught red-handed by the FBI stuffing cash, and it was a bribe, and I think we have the video of it. There's a picture from the video. She was stuffing about $8,000 of cash, the FBI claim was a bribe, into her bra. This is the woman who Barney Franks now says was the one who told him about One United and why they needed a TARP bailout.
Well, he's proud of it, and I think the provision in the TARP program that allowed One United to get the money was put there by Barney Franks specifically at the behest, as you say, of Wilkerson. And then later, Waters has this interest that he knew about, and he starts calling Paulson 3, 4, 5 times about what, certainly including One United. And One United gets $12 million. They didn't deserve the money. They were poorly run. They were misusing the money they already had. And as far as I can tell, they still haven't paid the money back, unlike the other TARP recipients.
I don't think they have. A lot of the small ones, though, haven't. But here's the point, Tom. I mean, this shows how distorted Washington's view of what is right and what is wrong is. Barney Frank thinks it's okay that he actually took advice from a woman who was stuffing bribe cash into her bra. That somehow is all right. She's a capable, good witness for what One United either does or doesn't deserve.
And Barney Frank's using her involvement to justify his own improper actions. He said to the Financial Services Committee he should not have been contacting Treasury about any bank. And Maxine Waters is frankly right to ask why it is that I'm being criticized for communicating with Treasury about this bank, but if I go through Barney Frank, Barney's free, and he's immune from criticism. He ought to be subject to the same scrutiny she's being subject to.
Well, the one difference is that Barney Frank, so far as I know, we don't see any personal gain that he might have gotten from the One United deal. That is, unlike Maxine Waters, who had stock in the company somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million. Her husband was on the board. He didn't get any personal gain from One United, did he?
But David, he knew Maxine Waters had something to personally gain from this. He knew she had a conflict of interest. And yet he still went to the Treasury Department on her behalf, a member of his committee. He should have said, not only should you stay out of it, but we should all stay out of it. It's improper for members of Congress to be intervening in TARP. TARP is bad enough.
And beyond all that, Tom, beyond, I think again, you are a great investigator of corruption and crime inside the Beltway, but the fact that he goes as a character witness for One United to a woman who's been caught several times violating the law, the most obvious example of which is she's stuffing campaign cash in her bra. I mean, that to me is extraordinary. This is his character witness.
It is. I mean, he's exonerating himself for acting on behalf of Maxine Waters by this crook in Massachusetts. Either way, he's in the center of the storm there.
One thing you can say about Maxine Waters, I don't think she's ever stuffed bribe cash in her bra like this woman has. So, of course, if that's the best you can say about her, it's, I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, but she's abusing her office. I mean, her family own upwards of $1 million in stock in this bank, and she brings Paulson in, and Paulson's like, where are the other bankers here? During this meeting that she set up, and it turned out it was only her bank that got that meeting with Treasury due to her intervention. And then she gets Frank to happily go along with this pressure campaign. The issue is for Frank, it's more substantial in my view regarding Frank, because he said at a Financial Services Committee, and he abused his chairmanship.
That's a great point. As chairman, he's supposed to be watchdog over what everybody's doing with regard to this. Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch.